Okay, hi everyone. My name is Ratika and welcome back to another episode of Redefined Stories. I am so excited today because we're back with a really inspiring story of Drishti Makhijani. I hope that pronunciation is correct. You guys might be
Sort of correct.
you guys might be wondering who she is. So, well, she's a 20-year-old founder of Qadira who is hoping to change the world one period at a time. And as you would have guessed, yes, she hopes to break down the financial and the educational barriers in terms of access to menstrual products and their acceptability. Redefine also recently partnered with them actually for empowering about 1,000 students in Ghana in relation to menstrual and sexual education. Qadira has been able to impact over more than 7,000 lives, which I think is incredible. And this work has led her to be invited to several events as a guest speaker and receive several awards. Now, when we talk about entrepreneurship, it is something that Drishti related to from the very beginning. As I see, even before Qadira, she had other organizations like Temptation Talk, which was about healthy chocolates and made about 700 times in profit. She also founded Pretty Purple, which currently spans around 10K plus readers and 700 bloggers. So, welcome, Drishti. After that amazing introduction, the great work that you have done, it's so great to
Thank you
see you
so
go.
much
How are
for
you?
that lovely introduction. Pretty Purple closed down before Qadira started. Right now, I think Qadira is the only thing. However, I carry the learnings from Temptation Talks and Pretty Purple into Qadira as we move forward. But before all of this, I was a tech geek, and this is not something that people know about me. So I think before all of that, I was hardcore into coding when I was in ninth and 10th.
Yeah.
And then I think I outgrew that into this.
No, we're definitely going to be asking a lot of questions from that. And I think actually my follow-up question was about that. I was kind of just curious to know how did you end up pursuing entrepreneurship route in general? Because even when I looked at your background, I see that you got your education in computer science. And as you also mentioned, you were a tech geek. So how did kind of entrepreneurship come into play?
Um, First things, when I was looking at tech back in the day, it was more about the power of creating something, right? That is my definition in sense of power, creating something that ends up impacting lives, right? So back in the day, to be able to create, something tangible out of nothing,
Yeah.
engineering was the standard route.
Yeah.
And later on, as you grow, you realize that there are other means and ways to do the same as well. So, and then when you like further grow up, oh, this is the entrepreneurial mind where you sort of, create a product, add commercial value to it, bring it to the market, impact lives, that sort of a thing. So, the more formal form, it took pretty later on, but I think I was always inclined towards that.
Okay.
So even today, the basis and the core remains the same. It's just how I do it has sort of changed.
Okay. And what would you say kind of attracted you about entrepreneurship? To kind of pursue it like full time in a way.
So I think again, freedom,
Yeah.
power,
Okay.
right? As I said, the freedom to be able to do things your way and not be defined by the standard norms.
Yeah.
The, you know, the power that again comes with it, as I said, to be able to create and impact lives. That's how I view it. And then comes the satisfaction that you derive from
Yeah.
it, right?
Yeah.
So all of that put together sort of.
Yeah. But I'm also kind of curious. The reason I'm asking so many questions around this is, because I know you are based in India currently, and I know how, the career route goes for like people who are
Uh,
graduating right out of university. And, entrepreneurship definitely is not something that tends to be in the charts, or definitely
absolutely
not something parents are proud of. So,
proud of.
because of your option or choice to choose this, has it
Yeah.
led to any specific judgments or any specific struggles from like
Yeah.
family or friends in a particular way?
Um, I would not say from family and friends,
Yeah.
per se, because they've been very supportive, and that is one thing I've gotten very, very lucky with. However, you do face initial resistance because it's not the standard route that you take. But when you're sure of what is it that you want to do, people, when you believe in what you want to do, people genuinely start believing in it. However, now I'm at a place in time where my friends around me are, again, as you said, are landing into very standard career paths,
Yeah.
right? They have their lives set, they have their lives planned.
Yeah.
You know, most of them are in, say, bad decent relationships, or when you look at in terms of career, a lot of them are getting good placement jobs, high paying jobs. You know, they're into tech or economics,
Yeah.
most white collar jobs, and you know, they know most of their things, their roadmaps are mapped out. Now for me, when I look at myself, and you know, for me this is a fairly new challenge where you start evaluating and comparing yourself um, to the others and the stability around
Yeah.
it, right? So you're like, oh, am I doing something wrong? Because in entrepreneurship, or maybe when you're pursuing something on your own, there is no path that is charted out for you. What works for a brand doesn't work for the other. You don't know what's going to work for you. You don't know where you're going to be, very honestly, right? The challenges every single day
Yeah.
are new, they are unseen, and you probably don't know. Like,
Yeah.
I learn as I go, right? I don't have it all figured out. And that feeling sometimes is very scary,
Yeah.
right? And they have a fixed 9 to 5, so you have them partying, you see them living their life in a very different way. Whereas for you, you don't have that, right?
Yeah.
You're working 24/7. If there is a crisis, there is a crisis.
Yeah.
You don't have an off. You're working across the week. So those are the kind of judgments that you have to sort of battle within yourself. I think that is the first
Yeah.
challenge.
I would say for you,
However,
it was more of like the personal, in a way, like
um,
there's a
yeah,
judgment.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think that is major because
Yeah.
you already have a lot of people doubting you around you, very, very frankly say. Because when you do things differently, because I know at least with Qadira, for a matter of fact, we're not running it how standard startups are or the route that they follow. We have a path of our own because we're a more purpose driven brand. We have a different value system attached to the thing, right? When you're doing it differently, you definitely have judgments around you,
Yeah.
but you can at some point in time make peace with that,
Yeah.
you know. Very frankly speaking, people, when they know what we're doing, they have their own opinions. And I joke about this that literally everyone is running Qadira but me in their own heads in the way that they want.
Mhm.
And when you meet them, they're always full of, oh, you didn't do this right. Oh, maybe this. So I think I've sort of started taking it with like a grain of salt. I love that. I'm very open to new ideas. I
Yeah.
started looking at it like that. But I believe all of that judgment you can still deal.
Yeah.
The biggest challenge is to fight your own sort of self doubt and self conflict, which is a major, major part, by the way, and people in entrepreneurship don't talk about it.
Yeah, no, definitely. And that is what we're here to talk about today, But I'm also kind of wondering, how did Qadira specifically come into being? Like, how did an organization that is catered to educating people about menstruation become something that you wanted to found? Was there a personal story attached to it, or was it something that you just woke up one day and you're like, let's go Qadira?
No, I think it's a lot of factors breaking it down. Qadira as an organization started off as an impact organization. Definitely, there is a personal incident and a story attached to it. Um, it kept growing, and another very big female founder and somebody who's in the entrepreneurship circle. Um, there was a day where I was pitching, and she asked me, "Is this all the space that you'd want to cover?" And that before that point, I'd never sort of thought, oh, a D2C brand could be it for me, or that is something that, we would want to explore. I always wanted to have a brand of my own
Yeah.
and all of that. But I again didn't have that very figured. So she just sort of put me through a couple of questions, and she's like, maybe, you'd want to think about it.
Yeah.
And then I had a lot of friends who would just randomly joke, hey, listen, you make so much for like, rural women when it comes to their menstrual needs. They're loving it. Why don't, is it not that you care about us? Oh, are we not menstruators? And I used to be like, someday we might do something, might not do something.
Yeah.
But then that eventually grew into brand. People kept coming, people kept believing in it,
Yeah.
and that idea sort of took form. It ideally a baby takes 9 months, but this one took 11. So it was a longer process for the idea to come about, for the product to come about.
Yeah.
We did over 100 iterations of the product before it got into the market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I would also wondering is like I know you said that there is a personal story behind it. I don't know if you're comfortable sharing it.
Most definitely. So it's got a lot to do with first. I will acknowledge the privilege that I have,
Yeah.
and I feel that that puts me in a place of responsibility of extending my resources
Yeah.
or whatever it is in my capability to sort of create a more equitable society, right? So that's how I look at it. My house help. uh, I was, to be very honest, a very privileged, brought up in a very privileged household. A little background, I come from a house where my dad made my lunchbox and my mom dropped us to school. So how I've always been brought up is that there is no gender to the work. If there is work, it can be divided
Yeah.
amongst anybody who's capable of doing it, right? And period poverty wasn't a real issue to me. Like,
Yeah.
very frankly speaking, about 2.5 years ago, if you'd ask me, I'd just be like, oh, there is something, and I'd share probably a story or two, just because everyone else was doing it.
Yeah.
Up until a point where my household help's daughter was detected with UTIs, to a point where she couldn't move.
Yeah.
You don't realize the severity of the problem until it's brought in front of you,
Yeah.
right? And I couldn't comprehend, uh, purely because that the place where she lived, I knew for a fact that menstrual hygiene distribution drives happen,
Yeah.
right? And I was like, okay, so you don't have access to the product, you're using an old cloth, and I know this organization who comes here to give pads, right? Where is the gap?
Yeah.
um, when you start digging deeper, only a lot of facts come to the forefront.
Yeah.
Fact B, first, that the pads were not adequate. They did not last long enough. There was no rechecking whether they had supply, whether they didn't have supply, and they were disposable pads. So you use, you throw, and you're done with it.
Yeah.
You never really go back and follow up. Key, is it still there? Is it not?
Yeah.
Right? So that sort of a situation was a major loophole. Again, very honest, being very honest. So it was a problem on the surface, and we were like, okay, we'll tackle it on the surface. We'll create a product that lasts longer and go out and give it and teach them how to, just use the product. Up until when we started stepping out in the slums to test the product out, and we were out interacting, and I honestly, that's my place. I love talking to people and learning from their experiences. So whenever we go on ground, irrespective of what I'm doing, that's the day where I am on ground.
Yeah.
I was doing that, and one of my interactions, a 35-year-old lady has two kids. She did not know that childbirth and periods were connected.
Oh my.
And I was like, wait, damn, that's where the problem is, right?
Yeah.
Imagine being so helpless that you don't know what's happening in your own body.
Yeah.
You don't know, how do you expect the non-menstruators to understand slash be able to even communicate,
Yeah.
right? And that's where it actually struck to me that the problem went way beyond just the product. The problem was lack of awareness, and lack of awareness of female anatomy within the menstruators, and then came the non-menstruators, right? If you don't know what's happening, you can't tell anyone else,
Yeah.
right? And all of this lack of information created a lot of space for misinformation, and that's where myths and taboos came into
Yeah.
being, right? So then we realized that we needed to give a more holistic approach to it. That's where our educational sessions that end up being the bigger part of Project Qadira sort of came into being. And because, again, we were at a position where in our schools we were given the sex ed and the menstrual ed talk. We knew how dead boring they were, and we did not learn anything. We hesitated and we didn't ask anything. That's exactly what we didn't want.
Yeah.
So all of us, a beautiful team of menstruators, came together to analyze and create sessions that were interactive, fun, and that was for a fact we knew that people would relate to. So
Yeah.
we spent time into creating those sessions, took them to the people, first worked on mindset change, then created affordable products and made them accessible. So we worked on all the three A's.
Okay.
And because this is a slower process, longer process, but definitely something that's going to probably bring about a more impactful change. And with India as a country, we have a very beautiful thing where the knowledge is passed down in a generational manner.
Yeah.
So if today we fix or we sort of explain or we bust the myths and taboos, we're not just doing it for this generation, we're doing it for the other generations to come. So even if it's a slower process, we're okay with it, we don't mind it, and we just want to focus on that. So
Yeah, no, definitely. And I'm also kind of wondering is like, I feel like a lot of people now, since we know kind of the backstory behind it, I feel like a lot of people come up with ideas, but very few people have the ability to implement those ideas. Like when you kind of, let's say, when you had the vision for Qadira, like how did you motivate yourself, or how did you kind of fight the different, like, the self doubts or the thing that, oh, I may fail, this and that? How did you fight those urges and eventually take your next steps for Qadira?
I think it started off as a project, right? So
Yeah.
when you start off as a project, you don't know anything. And I feel not knowing is very good. Like people have this notion about having it figured. Trust me, the only thing when you don't have it figured is a little bit of fear.
Yeah.
And I think that fear keeps you going.
Yeah.
So I really loved the when we started off, didn't know anything. I was
Yeah.
like, okay, we have a huge task in front of us. Let's take it step by step.
Yeah.
First, pitch the idea, get a team together. I think that is important, right? So you start there. I got lovely people, lovely support, put together a beautiful team. Then we analyzed the bigger problem, started with what we knew, right? If we knew we didn't know anything, we spoke to people, we connected, we outreached,
Yeah.
right? And slowly put things together. Again, break the bigger task into smaller chunks, and it's okay to not know anything,
Yeah.
right? And when it comes to battling fear, I think you have to learn to explain yourself that when you're, I do this a lot, when you're thinking about what if it doesn't work out, please also think about what if it works out,
Yeah. No.
right?
That's a good
And
one.
when you're um doing something like this, I don't think when we started off we ever saw ourselves impacting so many lives.
Yeah.
For us it was like, even if one person could
Yeah.
feel more confident about themselves, could have a more comfortable period, I think the job is done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So would you
And
say
when
kind of setting that low expectation, if I were to say initially, kind of really helps you kind of, I don't know, keep going?
I don't think set low expectation. I just feel don't set an expectation
Oh,
and let things surprise.
yeah.
I mean, just be open to every possibility, because
Yeah.
one thing that I've realized is that any organization, any model,
Yeah.
or any sort of framework that you're working on can be turned successful.
Yeah. No
You
doubt.
just have to be willing to stick through the process, constantly evaluate, right? And give yourself that window. Say, for example, if you're doing something, don't expect that day two or day three you will see the results, right? Wait at least 6 months, 7 months, 8 months. It's a patient process. There's going to be a lot of self doubt. Just be willing to stick there.
Yeah.
And after 6 months, analyze your last 6 months.
Yeah.
right? Change up things that require to be changed up. Be willing to always be an open like learner.
Yeah.
Learn from your past, learn from people around you.
Yeah.
Be constantly thinking about new things. Reevaluate, reassess, and redesign your strategy, and then get going.
Yeah. That makes
So
sense.
I think that's how at least I've approached it.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I feel like it's nice that you like coincidentally also mentioned about your team. And my next question was about that is, since we have also worked together, I saw the incredible team you have. Like, everyone seemed very like supportive. And I feel like it's very rare when you find teams where everyone's as motivated or as passionate about the topic as the founder themselves. And I think that is one of the biggest challenges a lot of startups come across, especially initially when you're starting out. You may not necessarily have as many funds to pay them, let's say. And in that phase, being able to find people who are ready to give their 100% in a particular way. So how did that kind of come into being for your organization?
I think one major thing is that I'm again that brings us to the basics that when you're starting off, when we put the team together, I told them, hey, I don't know where this is going.
Yeah.
If we build this together. Wherever we go, we all go together, right? This is something that I believe in. Is it something that you believe in? Like, I mean, we took an extra effort to sort of understand whether the people who are working with us are on the same wavelength. What is it that they expect,
Yeah.
right? What is it that they want? And all of us, on very honestly, the entire team, honestly, has a beautiful story that drives them. They're as passionate about the topic, and we all align on a lot of things,
Yeah.
right? So that is what has kept us together. And
Mm.
we sort of make time to have fun together, to learn together, to grow together. And I just feel no organization can grow if each of its individuals are not growing. And with an organization like this, sometimes people grow faster than the organization, and they outgrow the organization, right? At that point in time, you don't have to be selfish. You just have to let them go and be very happy for their success.
Yeah.
Because, like, hey, you started the journey with us, but here you are doing much more wonderful work. And
Yeah.
just celebrate them, try stay in touch with them, build those connections. And I think that is pretty much about it. Like,
Yeah.
honestly, for me, as much as growth of the organization matters, growth of each of the individuals matter as well. Are they growing? Are their skill sets growing? Are they exploring new things? Are they becoming more comfortable? So a lot of people that started out with us were not into theater, acting, presentation ever, had not even given a presentation.
Yeah.
Um, 4 months, 5 months down the line, a lot of people came to me. They're like, "Hey, thank you so much. Now we can speak in front of like a bunch of crowd because they were out there giving sessions."
Yeah.
You know? And that's what made me happy. I'm like, hey, this is great. Right? We had non-menstruators in the team, and they were openly asking questions without hesitation in a team of like in a meeting of 30 people, and
Yeah.
there were menstruators who were very non-hesitantly answering them, and it was a beautiful conversation. And I was just a bystander, and I was like, hey, if I'm able to build this, if they're able to feel this comfortable, my job is done.
Yeah.
Right?
No,
So I
I'm also kind of curious to know what do you think is something you did as a founder that kind of helped you enable like Qadira to kind of reach where it is today? Was there anything specific, like one thing you could point out that you did, you think had that impact?
I wouldn't say one thing, but I'm just gonna say that be as close to the people you're creating whatever you're creating for.
Mm.
I mean, um,
Yeah.
understand what is it that they need, where is it that they're coming from, what is the problem. Like, be clear about the problem statement
Yeah.
and be clear about who you're solving it for,
Yeah.
right? And constantly interact with them,
That,
right? Build that relationship where they feel heard and seen, right? When we talk about customer centricity with Qadira, we're trying to give it like a different meaning. We say we're co-creating the brand with you.
Yeah.
You're creating, every feedback that you give is very important to us,
Yeah.
to a point that we know that if we have to change something, it's gonna happen. Like if there is a feedback, a certain kind of feedback, that is taken into account.
Yeah.
We make an effort to reach out to people who've used the product, have an interaction. If we see, oh, people are facing a certain issue, maybe come up with something to solve it, right? When
Yeah.
we say customer centricity in that aspect, I think that is one thing. um Second, I think there's a very beautiful line that somebody once told me, and it's stuck with me since then. Marketing or brand building or any organization building, if you're doing a product, starts with building a great product,
Hmm.
right? If you have a good product, if you know who you're solving the problem for, and if both the things fit, you don't have to do a lot of Google ads, you don't have to do a lot
Yeah.
of, paid marketing. You just see an organic pick.
Yeah, no, definitely. And then when it comes to the organization as a whole, like, what do you think your organization is doing when it comes to educating people about menstruation, whether it be in terms of events, certain socials, donations, like, we are talking about your packaging extra, etc.
Yeah.
That your organization is doing that kind of enables it to kind of get that recognition and that kind of differentiation as compared to other brands or companies.
Right. Right. So we're going to talk about both the things, like both the parallels. We're going to talk about project and hygiene. Now, when we're talking about project, Qadira, the target was rural women. The
Yeah,
challenge there was that they wouldn't talk about menstruation at all,
yeah,
right? And plus, the literacy wasn't so high, so the packaging had to be visually appealing.
yeah,
Okay, so which is what the project Qadira packaging was.
yeah,
Second, I just very firmly believe that what happens with most organizations when they work with rural communities or underprivileged communities, they forget one thing, that they're also users. If a product is it that you can't use or you can't stand, you can't give it to somebody.
yeah,
So I think we really need to stop creating poor solutions for poor people just because they can't afford,
yeah,
right? So when we were starting off, I was very clear about what we're going to do. We're going to make it look nice to a point where they don't shy away from posing from the box.
yeah,
Like, let's take baby steps.
yeah,
They should like it. They should feel that, oh my god, it is something,
yeah,
right? It is it should make them feel happy.
yeah. No,
So
definitely.
that's where we started off for Project Qadira. Now, when we come to Qadira Hygiene, it's a very different target segment that project targets, right? We target tier one communities, tier one cities, and tier two cities, and that to a very millennial and a Gen Z
Yeah.
um, sort of
Audience.
lot,
Yeah.
right? Where they're looking to break the norms, where they're looking to have conversations, where they're looking to be educated.
Yeah.
Because, very frankly speaking, um, misinformation happens in two cases. One, there is when there's lack of information, which targets your rural communities and urban slums. The other happens when there is excess of information,
Yeah.
right? Which is the case with tier one and tier two. So
Yeah.
now, when we were looking at that and when we were creating the packaging for them, we wanted to create it in a manner that we generate food for thought. We wanted it to be a conversation starter. We just didn't want to like waste a couple of cardboards creating environment friendly packaging. We're like, if two people hold the box, they should be able to have a conversation.
Yeah.
Now, the bold statement on the box that probably caught attention is that this item is not meant to be wrapped in a black polythene, right? When we say this, when you look at the Indian context, there's been a culture of wrapping it in a black polythene as if it was some drugs,
Yeah.
right? So, and we've all lived through that era where we'd go to the chemist to ask for pads and we'd get it in like 5 black polythenes. So we relate on that. Another thing is that people are now in the country becoming more aware about gender identity as a concept
Yeah.
and becoming more inclusive in their approach,
Yeah.
even when it comes to menstruation. So we've sort of put up little statements that make them think a little more, that makes them inquisitive and want to know more in general. along with that, with the sanitary pads, they've always been looked at as a product. So when we were doing packaging, we
Yeah.
sort of wanted it to make like a lifestyle product, and we wanted to give them an ecosystem, right? So that's what we worked on. So you have disposable bags that the pads come in, right?
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah, that's how we've approached packaging in both the cases.
Perfect. Sounds good. Also, Drishti, I'm just going to say, I think we only have 2 minutes left. So I think I will have to definitely cut out a few parts. What I'll tell you is if we can rejoin again, and I just have last few questions.
Yes, 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 most
Like
definitely.
under like a minute each
Yeah.
question. And then, yeah, I think we should be then done. So, yeah, just rejoin the link.
हाँ जी, ठीक है, perfect.